Hogwarts are defense against the dark arts, transfiguration, divisionation, is right.
Herbology,
divisionation, I forgot it.
potions, charms,
Divisionation, the one that weird one does, with the big glasses. Professor Trinoli, the teacher that teaches divination is Professor Trelawney.
Welcome back to Harry Potter at the Castle, Magic at Midnight. Do you know something? The rumours are flying around faster than Nimbus 2000. Are you ready? Are you ready? Well, do you know something? The time has come. I cannot wait. Here we go. In 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Let's do it!
I'm going to read to you from chapter 6, in which Harry, Ron and Ginny go to see Fred and George's joke shop in Diagon Alley for the first time. "This is brilliant," said Ron, and he and Harry led the way into the shop. It was packed with customers. Harry could not get near the shelves. He stared around, looking up at the boxes piled to the ceiling. Here were the skiving snack boxes that the twins had perfected during their last unfinished year at Hogwarts. Harry noticed that the nosebleed nugget was the most popular, with only one battered box left on the shelf. There were bins full of trick wands, the cheapest merely turning into rubber chickens or pairs of pants when waved. The most expensive beating the unwary user around the head and neck. Boxes of quills, which came in self-inking, spell-checking and smart answer varieties. A space cleared in the crowd, and Harry pushed his way towards the counter, where a gaggle of delighted 10-year-olds was watching a tiny little wooden man slowly ascending the steps to a real set of gallows, both perched on a box that read, "Reusable hangman, spell it or he'll swing." Patented daydream charms? Hermione had managed to squeeze through to a large display near the counter and was reading the information on the back of a box, bearing a highly coloured picture of a handsome youth and a swooning girl who was standing on the deck of a pirate ship. "One simple incantation and you will enter a top-quality, highly realistic 30-minute daydream, easy to fit into the average school lesson and virtually undetectable. Side effects include vacant expression and minor drooling. Not for sale to under 16s. "You know," said Hermione, looking up at Harry, "that really is extraordinary magic." "For that, Hermione," said a voice behind them, "you can have one for free." A beaming Fred stood before them, wearing a set of magenta robes that clashed magnificently with his flaming hair. "How are you, Harry?" They shook hands. "Come on, I'll give you a tour." Harry followed Fred towards the back of the shop, where he saw a stand of card and rope tricks. "Muggle magic tricks," said Fred happily, pointing them out, "for freaks like Dad, you know, who love Muggle stuff. It's not a big earner, but we do fairly steady business. They're great novelties. Oh, here's George." Fred's twin shook Harry's hand energetically. "Giving him the tour? Come through to the back, Harry, that's where we're making the real money. Pocket anything, you, and you'll pay in more than galleons," he added warningly to a small boy who hastily ripped his hand out of the tub labelled "Edible Dark Marks. They'll make anyone sick."
How do you keep inspired, as there'd be so much pressure on you to make each book better than the one before it?
Well, there is pressure, but I'm lucky in that I planned all the books so long ago now that I can't really be deflected by much. I mean, I know what I've got to do next. It would be much harder if I didn't really know what the next book would be about. And I had a lot of pressure on me to, as you say, make it good and make it exciting. I was sitting there thinking, oh God, what should I make him do this time? Well, luckily for me, my plans are there, and I know what he's going to do next time. So I really just have to sit down and do the hard work and make it into a book.
Will Harry and Hermione start dating? Or will it be Ron and Hermione?
What do you think?
Harry and Hermione?
You will get more clues on that in this book.
Cool.
In fact, you'll get half of it. Half of your answer will come in this book.
Alright. Do you ever get writer's block?
Very, very, very rarely.
Really?
Yeah, I think I've only actually had one case of what I would call true writer's block, and that was during the writing of Chamber of Secrets, and that was related entirely to the fact that Philosopher's Stone had a lot of success, which really took me aback and temporarily paralysed me, because I was just plain scared, I think. I thought, well, I can't keep this going, I could never keep this going. I felt very insecure and very frightened by what was happening around me, and that blocked me temporarily. And I can't now remember how long that lasted for. I think a couple of weeks. That's a very long time for someone like me who writes pretty easily on a daily basis.
I would probably like the Sorting Hat to put me in Slytherin, because I'm sure the conversations are much more interesting.
I'm almost certain if the Sorting Hat fell on my head that I would be chosen for that house of amiable duffers and slightly hopeless, but charming-ish, pompous fellows who go to Hufflepuff. That's me.
Do you enjoy going to the movies to see your books come to life?
I do enjoy it. It's a funny feeling. One of the most disturbing feelings, and yet wonderful as well, was the first time I visited the film set. And they were showing me around, and the sets are just incredible. And there were two things. I walked into the Great Hall, and I'd drawn the director, Chris Columbus, sort of rough diagram of how I saw the Great Hall, and we'd really discussed it. And the production designer had just done the most astonishingly good job. And that felt like walking into my own head. I just walked into this place that I'd imagined for so long, and there it was, and it really looked exactly as I imagined it, and it was astonishing. And then later that day, they showed me the chamber where Quirrell faces Harry at the end of Philosopher's Stone. And there was a spooky, spooky moment where I was standing in front of the mirror of Erised, seeing myself, of course, exactly as I am, and you know what that means in the book. And so I was seeing myself as a successful published author. Wow, that was a very, almost embarrassingly symbolic moment, you can imagine.
Did you ever expect your books to be so popular with adults and children?
No, I never dreamed that I would be where I am now. It's just been incredible. I never dreamt that people would like books so much. I often get asked the question about adults, and all I can really say on that is that I write these books. I don't sit down and think, right, well, what would an 8-year-old like to read, or what would a 12-year-old write? I really do write what I'd quite like to read. So from that point of view, it doesn't surprise me that other adults like them, because I'm an adult, obviously, and I like them. But the scale of it, obviously, is breathtaking. George pushed back a curtain beside the Muggletrix, and Harry saw a darker, less crowded room. The packaging on the products lining these shelves was more subdued. "We've just developed this more serious line," said Fred. "Funny how it happened. You wouldn't believe how many people, even people who work at the Ministry, can't do a decent shield charm," said George. "Of course, they didn't have you teaching them, Harry." "That's right. Well, we thought shield hats were a bit of a laugh, you know. Challenge your mate to jinx you while wearing it, and watch his face when the jinx just bounces off. But the Ministry bought 500 for all its support staff, and we're still getting massive orders. So we've expanded into a range of shield cloaks, shield gloves. I mean, they wouldn't help much against the unforgivable curses, but for minor to moderate hexes or jinxes. And then we thought we'd get into the whole area of defence against the dark arts, because it's such a good money spinner," continued George enthusiastically. "This is cool. Look, instant darkness powder. We're importing it from Peru. Handy if you want to make a quick escape. And our decoy detonators are just walking off the shelves. Look," said Fred, pointing at a number of weird-looking black hooter-type objects that were indeed attempting to scurry out of sight. "You just drop one surreptitiously, and it'll run off and make a nice loud noise out of sight, giving you a diversion if you need one." "Handy," said Harry, impressed. "Here," said George, catching a couple and throwing them to Harry. A young witch with short blonde hair poked her head around the curtain. Harry saw that she, too, was wearing magenta staff robes. "There's a customer out here looking for a joke cauldron, Mr. Weasley, Mr. Weasley," she said. Harry found it very odd to hear Fred and George called Mr. Weasley, but they took it in their stride. "Right you are, Verity, I'm coming," said George promptly. "Harry, you help yourself to anything you want, all right? No charge." "I can't do that," said Harry, who had already pulled out his money bag to pay for the decoy detonators. "You don't pay here," said Fred firmly, waving away Harry's money. "But you gave us our start-up loan. We haven't forgotten," said George. "Take whatever you like, and just remember to tell people where you got it if they ask."